I made the boat that took you to fame. I made the boat that will take you to your heaven.
The frustration Floki felt towards Ragnar was evident, but it was only upon his death that he felt comfortable sharing his thoughts out loud.
Give my regards to Athelstan, by the way.
He's upset because Ragnar chose a Christian priest over his own people. He chose a stranger over Floki, who loved him unconditionally, and he feels unappreciated.
I loved you more than anyone. I loved you more than that priest ever loved you. But it made no difference. You always thought, oh, it's just Floki. No need to bother about Floki. He's just a fool.
The pain Floki feels is a pain many of us feel. You put all this effort into showing someone that you care, and you get nothing in return for it. Not even a thank you. All this takes its toll on you. But there's some good points about needing appreciation that Marcus Aurelius gives us to keep in mind. In his meditations, Marcus chastises himself for doing someone a favor and expecting something in return, instead of looking to the action itself for your reward. What else did you expect from helping someone out? Isn't it enough that you've done what your nature demands? You want a salary for it too? In Stoic philosophy, human beings exist for the sake of one another. So by helping others, you're doing what is in your nature, and therefore, you're helping yourself. It's a fair point. If you do something for someone but need them to reciprocate your love, are you really doing it for them or for you? Doesn't that make it not altruistic if you're only offering your love on the condition that you get rewarded for it? Do they need to give you a tasty treat so you feel like it was worth your time to do it? There's a quote I used to think about when going through a breakup that says, "No love is ever wasted. Its worth does not lie in reciprocity." If we're here for human beings, doesn't it make sense that we love them and be good to them without needing them to tell us we're doing a good job for it? It's a weird human need that we have, where we're kind, caring individuals, but then it hurts when we aren't recognized when we feel we were being kind and caring individuals. But Marcus says to keep in mind, no matter what anyone says or does, my task is to be good. Like the gold who is gold without being told that it is, or the emerald who is unapologetically emerald. You need to just be good, rain or shine, tired or depressed. Now, if you're planning on being a person of influence, this goes into effect 100-fold. If you're appreciated by a large amount of people, you will inevitably be disliked by a large amount of people as well. That's the name of the game. You get appreciation from some and disdain from others. But then if you feel the energy of your group shifting and you start shifting your opinion to be on top of the movement of the group, what happens if this leads you to start stating things you don't even believe that may go against your conscience, but you're doing them because it's what your group wants? In that case, you're no longer being good. You're being led by the mob, and the mob's opinions are fickle and ever-changing. If checking our levels of appreciation isn't something to guide our actions, what is it that we do? That's something that I've been exploring recently. When Robert Kennedy Jr. was trying to get clean of his heroin addiction, he picked up a book by Carl Jung that just so happened to have a story in there about an alcoholic that Carl Jung was working with. The alcoholic would think that he was healed after working with Jung, think he was good forever, but inevitably would relapse and end up in the same spot. That alcoholic's name? Your father. I'm joking. It was Roland Hazard, who would end up greatly contributing to the founding of Alcoholics Anonymous. But at this point, Roland was so desperate that one day he asked Jung to level with him and let him know if anyone with his level of alcoholism had ever been cured. Jung said yes, but it was very rare. He also said it was only with people who had a profound spiritual realignment who got better. Jung had recognized this fact many years before and had set about trying to prove that God existed so that his patients could more easily believe it, and then they could get better. He found, though, after testing, that he couldn't prove in this existence of a higher power. Even though I can't use empirical tools to prove the existence of a God, Jung said, I can prove with empirical evidence that people who believe in the existence of a God get better faster and the recovery is more durable than those who do not. That was everything Robert Kennedy needed. He said hearing this was much more impactful than if Jung had said he could prove the existence of a God. From that moment on, he started acting as if there was a God watching him 24/7 and acted how he thought that God would want him to act. He adopted the belief that life was a series of tests and tried to pass those tests accordingly. Now, by the way, when we are saying God here, I understand this is a very loaded term for a lot of people. I'm not referring specifically to an Abrahamic God. If you are uncomfortable with the word God, you can replace this word with higher power, universe, logos like the Stoics, whatever works. When we're talking about God here, I want to make it very clear that I'm not referring to any type of dogmatic God in a religious sense. Going back to the story, the approach that Robert Kennedy took got him sober. His thought of life being a series of tests worked for him, but I prefer the analogy used by Epictetus. He likened God, or the Logos, to a general leading an army, and you are simply a soldier in that army. Some soldiers need to be cooks, some need to be scouts, some need to be on the front line. In that case, your job is to try to recognize what it is that the general expects of you, and go from there. Marcus Aurelius always thought of it as if you were an actor in a play. Whatever your role is as an actor in that play, perform that role. Whatever part is important for you to play, do that, because that's what you're put here to do. It's what's called your dharma in Hinduism, or duty. Don't do anything for the appreciation of others. Do it because it's what the general expects of you. Personally, I feel I was put here to write. I didn't choose it. I realized it one day that I was pulled towards it and was constantly writing anyway. So I just put it towards making these videos. I don't have some logical explanation for it. I just do it every day as that's what I was told to do. Because of this, when I release a video, I don't worry about how it's received because I'm not doing it for the appreciation. Although let's be honest, when I first started gaining a following on TikTok, I was sucked in by the views, the comments, got lost in the numbers, how well a video did. But eventually, after going through that adjustment period, it legitimately has been that I just write the best thing that I can, and I word it in the most clickbaity way that I can so it draws in viewers. But then I don't worry too much about how it does view-wise. There's some videos I made that I thought were masterpieces, and they got no views. While there were others that I thought were meh, and they blew up. For now, I just write and put it out, write and put it out. The appreciation aspect is simply there as a gauge to see if I'm improving or not. The point of all this, though, is that you need to know yourself in order to recognize what role the general has for you. From there, you work diligently on your task, regardless of how it's received. You let go of trying to get appreciation for it. Now, realistically, this is the answer. But this is also the answer from Plato's Republic. The real world that we live in, though, is a little bit more messy. So let's say that we're kind, considerate, all that, but you find that people really aren't appreciative of you. Are you supposed to just turn the other cheek, let people treat you like a doormat, whatever they want? No, absolutely not. That doesn't help you or anybody. We have a solution for that. But before we dive into all that, if you're enjoying this video, I wanted to invite you to join our Project Stoic community on School. This is an online community for people who are interested in using Stoicism and spirituality to enhance their life and reach their potential. Within it, you'll find a course to teach you the foundational ideas of Stoicism. There's a book that I wrote that will show you the universal laws guiding everything, and you can meet other deep thinkers as well. You get all of this for free, because why not? Eventually this group will be paid, but as of right now, it's free. The link is in the description of my page, and I'm looking forward to seeing you. Now back to why we need appreciation. George Price was a scientist who discovered the secret to altruism pretty much by accident. He was exploring selfishness and developed an equation showing that any trait that increased a human's fitness to reproduce would subsequently be more pronounced in the next generation. It was a formula so simple, he couldn't believe no one else had thought of it before. Price then got a job at the University College London, where he would hone this equation that pretty much showed that true altruism didn't exist. But then at the same time, he also had a spiritual awakening that made him try to prove this theory wrong. From this point on, he began to give away all of his possessions. He would seek out the homeless in London and give them anything that they asked for, from the money out of his pocket right down to the clothes off his back. If they needed a place to sleep, he would invite them back to his flat indefinitely. Eventually, he'd given away so much that he became as destitute as the men he was trying to help. When the lease ran out on his flat, he took to squatting, moving often, and somehow continuing to do his research as well. By the end of 1974, Price had given up everything. And sometime before dawn, on January 6, 1975, in a building he was squatting in, took his own life. It's a tragic story, but an important thing to note is that he seemed to have another conversion towards the end of his life. He had stopped giving everything away. He had realized that he needed to help himself first if he was going to be of any use to anyone else. This is where the appreciation thing gets a little complicated. While we don't want to do whatever it is and ignore the fact that we're being unappreciated, it's one thing to do something from the opinion that God gave you this task, but that's also an easy slide into staying in a toxic relationship because you were meant to save that person, or staying in a job where no one seems to care what you do. We don't want to do that. While we realize that we are doing things for the good of humanity, that you can deserve recognition but not demand it, that you should be gold without anyone ever having to tell you that you're gold. You should also realize if you're being taken advantage of. If we go back to Floki at the beginning, he would have made the boats for whoever the king of the Vikings was, because that was his job, and he felt his role was helping his people. He would have done that regardless. He just so happened to absolutely love Ragnar. He would have continued making boats and doing things because what else would he have done? He's Floki, the boat builder. Deep down, he knew that he was appreciated, and if he wasn't, he also knew, as well as anyone, that he could have left at any time. It always comes down to your personal discernment. Do the things that you feel are expected of you from the general, but do them without expectation of appreciation. Because even if you're doing the wrong things but getting appreciated, those are still the wrong things. So do the right thing, do what's expected of you, and be good. If you feel you should be appreciated more but aren't, communicate that. If that doesn't change anything, then you can go. Regardless of your choice, never hold resentment in your heart for a lack of appreciation. If you love someone, if you care about someone, you're doing good for someone, that's on you. If it's not reciprocated, you can make the call on if you stay or not, but you should be taking action and doing things based on if it's the right thing to do, not if you're appreciated for it. Appreciation is secondary.